What is going on anyway? Some of you will remember this as the theme song to the children's show, The Electric Company. And we used to listen to this in the 80s. Maybe it was the 70s and the 80s. Interestingly, I haven't listened to those words in a long time, but the theme song goes, "We're going to turn it on. We're going to give you the power." And this is what has been going through my head in these days preceding this new moon in July. This is the new buck moon, and it's in Cancer. I don't remember why the phrase, "Hey, you guys," I don't know what did it gather people around in the actual show, The Electric Company? It just popped into my mind, and I thought I wanted to yell that, like when I was a little kid and we would pretend play and gather around and start creatively developing stories together. And that's what I'm feeling like for this new moon. I want to yell out, "Hey, you guys, come on, let's figure this out together." Hi, I'm Anne Headley, and I am your host for my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, where I contemplate the current moon and what that means for me as a pathway through daily life. I wonder about how universal themes show up for us through different moon cycles, and using my intuition and my imagination, I reach for meaning. And as I do that, I find that I'm discovering a richness in the utter simplicity of paying attention to life exactly as it is. This is episode 13, and that means we've made it through the halfway point. And while I like the idea of a clean slate with new moons, this time it doesn't feel so clean. We're landing right here, and it isn't just neat, pretty, fresh. We're trying to start over, but it's like we're starting over on a pile of detritus that just doesn't feel clean, neat, or pretty, fresh. It doesn't feel like a clean slate of paper or a fresh new notebook. And it's sort of like I feel dumbfounded by this. How do we do this starting over, this beginning again, if we don't have something fresh, new, clean to begin on? And in this process of watching the moons go by, there's been a lot of feeling of clearing and letting go and washing through. And I kind of thought that eventually we'd get to this new, fresh, kind of windswept, maybe, easy place. But all of this washing has led me to see that the bottom or the base or the place that I'm looking for, it's not smooth or level. It's not easy to build on. It's rigid and craggly, bumpy. And yes, it's also beautiful and interesting and curious. But how do we build on it? I'm not sure I have any real framework to know how to do this. It's almost like we can't know, like there aren't any architectural plans for this. It's funny. I asked some of my friends, what do they think? How do you build on something that isn't level and easy, something that feels like a shifting ground? And Krista said, you build in the air. And I thought that was so beautiful and brilliant of an image to think about. Well, maybe you don't build on solid ground. Maybe you build something that can be above the ground, a structure that can float around and be accessed. I don't know. I'm kind of, what's the word? Allured to that idea of maybe we're not even building on this unsettled ground, but we're building something that doesn't necessarily have feet, but that we have to somehow access, like we have to elevate to access that. And I know that language itself is sort of problematic, this sort of like if we get better, or if we get lighter or purer or cleaner or something that we could elevate. So I'm aware of that, like that's problematic to say that. So I'm just going to let that land there and be curious about that. But what is it if the task is to rebuild, reform, some sort of structure to create a life around? And what is that for us? Is that around family, which has its own problems? Is it around the people that we just happen to find ourselves around? Are we seeking communities? I don't know. So that's, again, like, I don't even know how to begin. I don't even know what I'm building. So, the picture that I see is that there's a scenario where, let's just say I'm a home builder and that I'm good at it. I know how to do this. And I always build on, and I make sure that I'm building on foundations that are level and secure and solid and maybe even earthquake proof, flood proof and hurricane proof, and have the ability to withstand tornadoes. Let's just say that's what I do. And then I have to use these skills and build on insecure, unlevel, moving foundations. So already most of my skill set is useless here. I do know how to create something out of nothing, but I've created this format of doing it, and now I'm lost because it doesn't apply anymore. I hope that this comparison isn't too far flung. I'm not a home builder, but it's something about the feeling of I need to believe in what I've built, let's just say metaphysically, with the skill set that I have. And I have to believe that I have the creativity and the confidence and the flexibility to use the knowing that I can go from A to F and follow steps and get something created and built and made. But I have to be ready to use those skills with completely different goals, aims, and results. How's that sound? Does that make sense? I guess it doesn't even matter if it makes sense. I come in here with this podcast, and the goal is for me to talk about this moment now. And I often procrastinate, and I want to write out everything that I'm going to say. And then I come back to it like a day later, and I have different things to say. So there's something about this where I really just have to dive into the moment and believe that there's something there. Now, interestingly, I found a completely different place to record. I'm sitting in my car, in the garage. I can hear one loud teenager-ish boy probably looking for me, but I'm going to hide out for a little bit longer and do this, because if I don't just keep going now, I will really procrastinate and I'll come back to it much later. So hi, here I am talking to you from my car, tucked in the garage. It's quite kind of dark and cool in here, so it's a nice place to be with you for a few moments. And I just want to say, we're still here. A lot has happened. Maybe we're getting used to this flow of lots of activity, lots of change, things happening in our personal lives, in our friends' personal lives, in our family lives, and in the larger global landscape. And maybe we're just getting good at improvisation. And really there's a joy in improvisation that is the genius of the unknown, the juxtaposition of things coming together that you never expected would go together. And there's a lot of humor and joy and silliness in that. Let's love on this quote by Bell Hooks for a moment together. We cannot have a meaningful revolution without humor, Every time we see the left or any group trying to move forward politically in a radical way, when they're humorless, they fail. Humor is essential to the integrative balance that we need to deal with diversity and difference and the building of community. Bell Hooks. And some days I'm just not feeling like any of this is funny. I'm lost in the finding that. And I'm like, what's the funny part? I don't know. Is this funny? Am I the punchline? Who thinks it's funny that everything feels so lost? Is this where the aliens come in? I have to ask that. I have to bring that in. I don't love talking about this part because, what is that alien piece anyway? But did you see this? I was reading on NPR, listening, I think I read it, about this monolith that's in Colorado. And it's a large steel structure and it's very reminiscent of the monolith that showed up in 2001, A Space Odyssey. And nobody really knows. It's sort of this mystery. We're probably going to find out that somebody did it as an art project. But it does bring in this sort of interesting piece, which is, wasn't there? I mean, am I getting this wrong? Wasn't there at some point last year the government said, oh yeah, we have evidence of aliens. And then that's it? And it just seems so odd and funny that we don't know more about that. And if there is a piece of extraterrestrial life that has anything to do with our world today, it just seems like a big mystery. But I was curious about that news article about the monolith in Colorado. I think that there are a couple more that popped up around. So it could be somebody's neat idea for an art project or a practical joke, or I don't know what it is. But I was looking at the Electric Company, the children's show that I started this with, and they had a segment that was called The Monolith. And it was an animated short set in outer space, and they used it to introduce segments involving a phonic. And it was a large rectangular pillar of rock, just like we saw in 2001, A Space Odyssey. And I'm not even sure why I'm bringing it up. I just thought it was interesting that I've been thinking about that monolith and what does it mean? I had to look up the meaning of the monolith in the Stanley Kubrick movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. And it says it's a visual symbol of mysterious and powerful forces at work in the universe whose purposes we do not and perhaps can never understand. The monolith in the movie seems to represent and even trigger epic transitions in the history of human evolution. So, I don't know. Sometimes when something keeps showing up, like I did not know that, or I did not remember that they used the monolith in the Electric Company as a kid to introduce phonics to us. I just think it's funny that it's coming up several times. So does it mean that they were in the midst of some transition? Wouldn't it be nice if it did? I think there's this feeling like I'm on this long journey and this hike just feels like I've finally gotten used to the fact that I'm going. But maybe there is some purpose. Maybe there is some change. Maybe there is a way inside of my lifetime to create meaningful community that feels regenerative and nourishing and actually good for the earth. Some astrologers are promising a sort of sweet, easy time right now. I don't know if I'm feeling that, but I absolutely am noticing the moments of sweetness in a way like they just taste a little better. So maybe there's that. And could we have a little bit of summertime sweetness? Wouldn't that be lovely? Even if it's just a little while. This is the sound of me typing. I'm asking the question to the I Ching. What is for us to know right now to understand these 2 weeks better? Sometimes I ask it differently. That's how I asked it today. And just before I came down into the garage, into my car, to begin recording this, I was just having this feeling, and this isn't unusual for me, but I was having it very strongly. Maybe I should just quit. Well, why am I even doing this? Every once in a while, I just think this is a useless way of expressing myself. But honestly, after I do it, I feel like, oh, that wasn't so bad. It was just another episode of Anne expressing herself, sharing that with whoever wants to listen. And there's something very hopeful about that very act, even if I just, I don't know, read somebody else's poetry or my own poetry. Whatever it is, this is an act of reaching out without knowing the end result. Like I actually don't have a way of knowing who listens. So sometimes I get feedback from you and I think that's wonderful, and it's fun to find somebody who has listened and then tells me about it. But mostly I'm just doing this because I think somehow it's a good idea. And I cycle around this loop that says, stop it already. You should just stop. And I'm not sure what that voice is. If it feels like, oh, it's just too vulnerable. I mean, I don't know if I can fail at this. Even if you are the only person that ever listens to it, that's still not a failure, right? So I'm just questioning that voice that comes up for me. I do put a bunch of pressure on myself to do it and like to get it out on time, but it's not that bad. So I don't know what my big struggle about it is. But interestingly, the hexagram that we get is 32. It says lasting here, but I know 32 as duration. And I've been listening to the Bengtsson song, Keep Going. You know that one? You know that one? And I like to listen to that. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, because, maybe that is the whole message of this moment now. Just keep going and try to enjoy it. Just keep going. Try to enjoy it a little bit more. The questions around lasting or duration are, what inspiration are you making real in your daily life? For those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere and it's summer and things are blooming, are you bringing flowers in? I asked that question because I've been arranging flowers with Gabby every Friday morning with Firebird Farm, and she brings these beautiful arrangements and flowers to the farmer's market. And every week we get together and we're like, what's the recipe going to be? What's in bloom? What wants to be brought? What wants to go to market today? And when I go out and look at the flowers, there are some that are in perfect form. They're just ready to go. Others are waiting for a different time. And it's so inspiring. We also get that feeling around creating these arrangements, like, is it going to come together? Is this week going to be the one where we just decide, oh, not enough. It didn't work. And it just hasn't happened yet. And that's just a fun experience to feel and work with the abundance of nature and the flowers. I'm enjoying it so much. I think we're both really enjoying it. Of course, Gabby is taking on quite a lot more of the responsibility. I just get to do the fun stuff. And so that is the duration. That is the keep going. So with the flowers, it's easy for me to say to Gabby, just keep going. It's going well. Just keep going. But when it comes to myself, I doubt and I doubt and I doubt. The other question to ask is, how can you continue on the same path even as you adapt? And I think that's about sort of what I was talking about before. How do we continue on the same path, creating lives as we are doing with an unsteady ground underneath? Can we keep going and can we adapt at the same time? And then the question is, who will you become by persevering in this? I wish that who I would become is some wonderful, dreamlike version of myself where I'm experiencing life and I'm really participating in life and surprising myself and having a lot of fun. Whatever becomes part of the heart's circling journey will last. We bind things, influences, ideas, people into the fabric of our lives by integrating them into the daily round of our way of living so that they are carried with us through change. Oh, that's beautiful. So call the people you want to call, get together with the people that you want to get together with, play the music, dance to the songs, do the things that you want to be in your life and let them bind into your daily living. This is an active, creative process, keeping the channels always open for exchange between inspiration and reality. Lasting tirelessly on your own path, whatever landscapes it travels through, it is not a mistake. What lasts bears fruit, not because you arrive at some final destination, but because through all the changes, you persevere in your intent and inspiration, and you are always finding ways to make it real. Ooh, I love this one. We have changing lines 2 and 4. I don't have an expansion on this right now. I don't have the book in front of me, but we get regrets vanish, which I think is a good one. Like, just go ahead and do it. And in the field, no game. Don't know what that means. You know, there's a whole internet available to you if you want to know what hexagram 32 line 4 means. And it moves to hexagram 15, integrity. What is the simple reality? How might you return to a state of balance? And what if it didn't all depend on you? I know we've gotten this one before, but it's so interesting. What if it didn't all depend on you? What if this is a group endeavor? What if sometimes you stepped back to see what's there? What is the reality that we're looking at? Not how you might need to change or fix. Listen, I'm talking to myself here. And it's not how you are going to go into a situation and fix it and make it better. But maybe you're really going to go into a situation and look at the reality of it and see what you honestly have to offer here. Because fixing is masking sometimes the pain and grief that needs to be dealt with. And that's just huge in the forefront right now for me. Not trying to make grief go away, but maybe I can just be with it a little bit more. To experience integrity is like coming face to face with your real self, plain, simple, and unadorned. To have integrity is to be whole, at one with yourself and with reality. It means being honest about your own capacities. And I'm going to say this one again for the codependents in the back. It means being honest about your own capacities. Holding yourself in creative balance with your world and not exaggerating the importance of your role. Ooh. Right? That's the thing. I overcare. I am codependent in an effort to exaggerate my role and make sure that I will be safe because I'm basically afraid of unworthiness. So how about maybe it's okay to just stay and breathe and watch and not react at a moment's notice when things feel a little unsure or unsteady. But maybe it's okay to be the one that's watching and breathing for a few moments before taking action. Okay, that's it. That's this week. That's this new moon. Couple of things. Keep going. Just keep going. Enjoy something beautiful. Allow yourself to be moved by inspiration. I mean, there's so many things. Okay, we're in Maine here. So in Maine, in the summer, it's like You can go see dance and music, and there's pop-up markets, and there's a lot to be inspired by right now. So wherever you are, go be inspired. And also maybe dip your toes in some nice water if you can. And that's all I've got. That's the news from Magog Road this new moon. May you be well. May you know peace. May all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well. May they know peace. You can always find out more about me, although to be honest, I haven't updated my website in a while, but you can find out all the old good stuff at www.annhedley.com. And I think I'm ending Patreon. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I think there's a way I can just leave what's there, but it won't be a paid service anymore. Am I making that decision in this moment at the very, very last couple of minutes of this podcast? Maybe. At any rate, if you want to look at that, it's www.patreon.com/watermoonstudios. Until next time, be well. Bye for now.